The hardest clutter to face isn't in the attic, it's in our hearts. Every sweater, letter, and photo carries a love story we're afraid to lose. For seniors, especially after 60, this weight feels heavier with every passing year. It's not about dust on a shelf, it's about dust on memories we aren't ready to part with. That's why so many of us hold on, even when the boxes stack too high. But what if I told you there's a way to keep the love without keeping every object? A way to clear space without feeling like you're erasing someone's presence. Imagine transforming grief into gratitude, not by throwing things away, but by learning rituals that turn every keepsake into a bridge rather than a burden. This is not minimalism in the cold sense, it's memory care for your soul. It's about creating room for joy today while honoring yesterday. Before we go further, if this already strikes a chord with you, don't just hit like, tap that new hype button. YouTube gave seniors 3 free hypes every week, and each one helps lift voices like ours so more people over 60 can discover this message. Think of it as your way of saying, this story matters, and it shouldn't be buried. So hit hype, tap like, and make sure you're subscribed, because what comes next will show you that decluttering can heal without taking love away. Eudora Mayfield is 72, a retired school librarian from a quiet town in Ohio. For decades, she spent her days helping children discover the magic of stories, teaching them how to hold a book with reverence and lose themselves in the pages. But when her husband, Samuel, passed away last winter, Eudora's own home became a library of memories she didn't know how to organize. Every room seemed to whisper his presence. The shelves still held the novels he underlined with little notes in the margins, his familiar handwriting dancing between the lines. In the kitchen, mugs from their travels sat untouched, each one a ticket to a memory, from Niagara Falls to a small diner in Tennessee where they laughed over pie. And in her bedroom closet, his coats still hung neatly on wooden hangers, their faint scent reminding her of every winter walk they shared. Eudora's struggle is not about objects, it's about identity. After losing her partner, she found herself asking a question many seniors quietly carry: how do you move forward without feeling like you're leaving love behind? This is where her story becomes more than personal, it becomes universal. Seniors across the country face the same battle, the tension between preserving love and reclaiming space. Eudora's journey reminds us that decluttering sentimental items isn't about erasing the past, but reshaping it so the present can breathe. Her strength lies in her gentle approach. Instead of rushing to box everything up, she chooses small rituals, pausing with each object, asking herself not just should I keep this, but how can I carry this love differently? That shift makes her relatable to every senior who looks at a house full of memories and feels both warmth and weight. Through her eyes, we see that it is possible to keep stories alive without drowning in them. And as her guide, Eudora teaches us that grief can evolve into gratitude, not by letting go of love, but by letting it live in new forms. Ritual 1. Storytelling with objects. Decluttering sentimental items doesn't have to mean erasing the past, it can mean passing it forward. Storytelling is one of the most healing ways seniors can approach the process. Every object in your home is more than material, it's a chapter of your life. By sharing those chapters out loud, you turn what feels like letting go into a gift of legacy. Here's how to make it work. Invite someone close to you, a child, a grandchild, even a neighbor who knows your history. Pick up one item at a time and tell the story behind it. Go deeper than dates or places. Talk about the laughter over morning coffee with a favorite mug, the moment of love captured in a necklace gifted long ago, or the summer afternoons a sun-faded cap accompanied you through. When Eudora reached for her late husband Samuel's fountain pen, she didn't just see ink and metal. She told her granddaughter how he wrote her love notes on scraps of paper when money was scarce, each one a reminder that affection mattered more than wealth. What could have been forgotten in a drawer became a bridge to the next generation, carrying Samuel's tenderness into the future. This ritual eases the pressure of deciding whether to keep or release an item. Once the story is told, the memory no longer depends on the object, it's already alive in someone else's heart. Some pieces will naturally find new homes with family who connect to them. Others may be photographed, recorded, or written down so the story remains, even if the item itself moves on. In truth, You aren't discarding anything that matters. You're curating your life, choosing which stories to hand forward so they continue long after you. By doing this, decluttering stops feeling like loss and becomes an act of sharing, a way to weave your presence into the lives of those you love. What's one item in your home that holds a story worth passing down? Ritual 2, Memory Recipe Ritual. For many of us, the kitchen is where the heart of the home has always lived. Recipes, old dinner plates, and the meals we once shared often hold stronger memories than any photograph. That's why the memory recipe ritual can be so powerful. It's not about storing recipe cards in a drawer or keeping cabinets full of dishes we never use. It's about bringing them to life again, even just once. Eudora held on to her husband Samuel's recipe for peach cobbler. The card was soft around the edges, smudged from years of flour and sugar dust. Instead of leaving it tucked away, she baked it again. The sweet smell drifted through the house, and for a moment, Samuel's presence was everywhere. She poured tea into the mugs they'd collected on road trips and set them on the table, just the way they used to do. Then she snapped a simple photo, not for show, but to hold on to that living memory. This ritual works because it shifts the focus from objects to experiences. A recipe isn't just instructions, it's a love letter in disguise. A chipped plate isn't clutter, it's the witness to birthdays, anniversaries, and late-night talks. By cooking one dish or setting a table in honor of someone you love, you give yourself a chance to honor the past while living fully in the present. And here's the best part, you don't have to hold on to every pan, plate, or note afterward. Sometimes the act of cooking the meal or gathering the family around the table is enough. You can pass the recipe along, save the photo, or create a small family cookbook. What matters most isn't the object itself, but the love it carried. What recipe or kitchen item in your home carries a memory that deserves to be celebrated one more time? Ritual 3, Seasonal Blessing Box. One of the hardest parts of sentimental decluttering is the feeling that once something leaves your hands, the memory is gone forever. That fear keeps many seniors surrounded by overflowing shelves and crowded drawers. The seasonal blessing box offers a gentle alternative. Rather than donating everything at once, you rotate cherished items through the seasons, giving them space to shine without letting them take over your home. Here's how it works. Choose a single box, something modest, not too large, so it encourages intention. Label it by season, spring, summer, fall, or winter. Inside, place just a handful of memory-filled objects that connect to that time of year. In spring, you might bring out the scarf your sister knitted in pastel yarns, or the Easter card your children made decades ago. Summer might hold seashells from family trips to the coast or the picnic blanket where birthdays were celebrated. Autumn could include a favorite flannel, a harvest cookbook, or a handwritten Thanksgiving recipe. Winter may bring forward holiday ornaments, a loved one's wool hat, or handwritten letters exchanged on cold nights. By cycling these items, you're able to refresh your living space while still honoring the rhythm of life. Each season feels intentional. Memories return like old friends, are celebrated, and then gently return to the box so new moments can have room. Instead of keeping everything on display all year, this ritual creates breathing space, both physically and emotionally. Eudora found this especially comforting. When she opened her winter box, she displayed Samuel's snow globe collection on the mantle, filling the house with his spirit through December. But come spring, she tucked them back away and brought out the pressed flowers he once gave her in their early years. Each season gave her a chance to remember him in a new light, without feeling overwhelmed by the weight of having everything out at once. The seasonal blessing box teaches us that decluttering doesn't always mean goodbye. Sometimes it simply means not right now. You create a cycle where memories aren't lost, they are honored, revisited, and savored at just the right time. Which season in your life holds the strongest memories, and what items would you place in your first blessing box? Ritual 4, Memory Walkthrough Recording. Sometimes the most powerful way to preserve memories isn't with a box or a photograph, but with your own voice. The memory walkthrough recording is a gentle ritual that allows seniors to capture the stories behind their belongings without having to hold on to every single item. With nothing more than a smartphone or a simple recorder, you can walk through your home, pause at meaningful objects and speak the memories aloud. What results is an audio heirloom that your children, grandchildren, and even great-grandchildren can replay for years to come. Think about it this way: your voice carries emotion that a photograph never could. When Eudora stopped at her bookshelf, she didn't just describe Samuel's old novels. She laughed as she remembered how he would scribble little stars in the margins next to his favorite quotes. She told how he once insisted that a single line from a novel was so important they read it out loud before dinner. In that moment, her story wasn't just about the books, it was about the warmth and humor of the man she loved. This ritual works beautifully because it doesn't require you to decide immediately what to keep or release. You can still part with objects later, knowing the story has already been saved. Imagine your granddaughter, decades from now, pressing play and hearing you describe the quilt your mother stitched by hand or the dining table where every Thanksgiving meal began with prayer. These recordings become time capsules, personal, intimate, and deeply human. The process is simple. Start with one room, move slowly, and let your memories flow naturally. You don't need polished sentences. In fact, the little pauses, chuckles, or even tears make the recording more authentic. Over time, you'll build a library of spoken memories far more valuable than an attic full of boxes. Decluttering, then, isn't about silence and absence, it becomes about voice and presence. Even if the object leaves, your words remain, carrying love and history in a way no storage bin ever could. If you were to record one story today, which object in your home would you start with? Ritual 5. Transformation instead of disposal. One of the hardest parts of sentimental decluttering is the feeling that letting go means losing connection. But what if those objects could take on new life instead of ending up in a donation bin? The ritual of transformation instead of disposal invites seniors to reimagine keepsakes so they continue to serve a purpose, tangible reminders of love that live in new forms. It's not about throwing away, it's about reshaping grief into something that can be used, cherished, and passed down. Take fabrics, for example. A closet full of old clothes may feel overwhelming, but those fabrics can be stitched together into a memory quilt. Every square tells a story: your husband's flannel shirt from winter walks, a dress you wore to a family wedding, or the apron that still carries traces of flour from Sunday baking. The quilt doesn't just reduce clutter, it becomes a living blanket of history that warms future generations. Letters and cards, too, don't have to fade in showboxes. By framing them in a collage, you transform words once tucked away into art that can hang proudly on the wall. Imagine walking past a frame of handwritten notes from your spouse or birthday cards from your children. It's no longer clutter hidden in drawers, but gratitude displayed openly every day. Even jewelry can be transformed. A brooch, a pendant, or cufflinks that rarely leave the jewelry box can be reworked into keepsakes to share. One necklace may become 2 charm bracelets, allowing grandchildren to carry a piece of family love wherever they go. Instead of one heirloom gathering dust, it multiplies into tokens of connection. Eudora found this ritual especially healing. Samuel's favorite ties were tucked away in a box, rarely seen. She chose a few and worked with a local craftsperson to have them sewn into pillow covers. Now, when family visits, those pillows sit in the living room, a quiet, beautiful reminder of him that invites comfort rather than sadness. Transformation honors both memory and practicality. It gives you the freedom to release excess without erasing meaning. What was once tucked away now becomes something useful, visible, and cherished. If you could transform one sentimental item in your home today, what would you choose to give new life? Ritual 6. The shared story swap. Decluttering often feels like a solitary burden, but it doesn't have to be. The shared story swap transforms the process into a moment of connection. Instead of quietly sorting through items alone, invite someone from your circle, a sibling, a cousin, or a lifelong friend who understands your history. Each of you brings one meaningful object and, before exchanging, you share the story behind it. The swap is less about possessions and more about strengthening bonds that stretch across generations and friendships. Here's how it unfolds. You sit together, perhaps at the kitchen table or on the porch, and place your chosen items in front of you. They don't have to be grand. Sometimes the smallest things carry the richest meaning. A scarf knitted years ago, a record from Saturday nights spent dancing, or a travel trinket that recalls a trip no one has forgotten. As you tell the story behind your object, you aren't just passing on a thing, you're offering a piece of your memory for safekeeping. Eudora tried this with her sister. She shared Samuel's old travel journal filled with notes from their camping trips, and her sister offered a hand-painted mug their mother once cherished. Each item found new life in new hands, but the stories that accompanied them were what mattered most. The swap became a celebration of shared history, a reminder that memory multiplies when it's given, not hoarded. This ritual is especially meaningful for seniors who feel torn between keeping too much and letting too much go. By exchanging, you ensure the memory continues to live, while also creating a new layer of connection with someone who values it. It becomes less about reducing clutter and more about weaving your life stories into a wider family or community fabric. The shared story swap reminds us that love isn't locked inside objects, it flows between people. An exchanged keepsake becomes a bridge, carrying not only its original story but also the new chapter it begins in another person's home. If you were to share one sentimental item with a loved one today, what would you choose, and whose hands would you trust it to? Ritual 7. The candle and conversation. Letting go doesn't always have to be about parting with objects. Sometimes it's about releasing the weight of holding memories in silence. The candle and conversation ritual offers seniors a simple yet profound way to honor a cherished item without the abruptness of packing it away. Once a week, choose a quiet evening, place a sentimental object where it can be seen, and light a candle beside it. The warm glow creates a sacred space, gentle, calm, and safe for reflection. During this time, share the story of the item with someone you love. It could be a grandchild curious about the past, a friend who remembers the same moments, or even a neighbor who simply listens. The act of speaking the story aloud gives the object new life beyond its physical form. A medal from your husband's military service, for instance, becomes more than metal. It becomes a tale of courage, sacrifice, and love retold in your own voice. Eudora began this ritual on Sunday evenings. She would set Samuel's favorite pocket watch on the table, light a small candle, and tell her grandson about the mornings when Samuel would wind it before heading to work. The boy listened wide-eyed, not because of the watch itself, but because he was inheriting a story he could pass on one day. When the candle was finally blown out, Eudora felt lighter. The watch still sat on the table, but the act of telling and releasing brought peace. What makes this ritual unique is its rhythm. By repeating it weekly, you create space to honor memories gradually. Instead of facing the pain of getting rid of things all at once, you slowly build acceptance and gratitude. The candle becomes a symbol, not of endings, but of transformation. Its flame acknowledges the love attached to the object, and its extinguishing marks a gentle release of the heaviness that comes with holding on too tightly. Decluttering, then, becomes less about losing and more about finding balance. With each candle lit and each story shared, you keep the memory alive while freeing yourself from the weight of keeping everything forever. If you lit a candle tonight, which item in your home would you place beside it, and whose ear would you choose to share its story with? Ritual 8. The gratitude exchange. Decluttering becomes less painful when we realize our objects can keep living meaningful lives in the hands of others. The gratitude exchange is a ritual that shifts the focus from loss to giving. Instead of seeing sentimental items as things you must surrender, you offer them to someone who will carry the memory forward in their own daily life. The process transforms letting go into an act of generosity and legacy. Here's how it unfolds. Invite grandchildren, friends, or neighbors to visit. Lay out a small selection of objects that hold meaning for you, a well-worn cookbook, a piece of costume jewelry, a vintage record, or even a set of tools that once fixed countless things around the house. Allow each guest to choose one object that speaks to them, something they feel connected to. Before passing it on, you share the story behind it. The item doesn't leave quietly, it leaves with a voice, a history, and a sense of blessing attached to it. Eudora experienced this when her granddaughter admired a ceramic teapot she had collected years ago on a trip with Samuel. Instead of keeping it boxed away, Eudora placed it into her granddaughter's hands and told the story of the rainy afternoon they bought it in a tiny Ohio town cafe. Now, the teapot isn't just porcelain on a shelf, it pours new memories in another home, still tethered to love. What makes the gratitude exchange so healing is the way it turns objects into bridges. Instead of hoarding possessions for fear of forgetting, you witness their meaning continue in the lives of others. Each gift becomes a seed planted, one that grows new stories while still honoring the old. This ritual also creates opportunities for connection. Young family members often don't realize the depth of history tied to everyday items until they are given with intention. Friends and neighbors, too, feel honored when entrusted with something meaningful. And for you, the act of giving becomes a moment of relief. You've lightened your space while strengthening your bonds. The gratitude exchange teaches that love doesn't end when we release objects. In fact, it expands. An item once bound to your memory now carries your story into someone else's life, ensuring it remains alive for years to come. If you were to give away one sentimental item today, who would you choose to receive it, and what story would you tell as you placed it in their hands? Ritual 9. Legacy Letter Ritual. Some items are more than objects, they are carriers of lessons, values, and love. The legacy letter ritual gives seniors a way to preserve those lessons in writing so future generations receive not just the item, but also the wisdom and emotion that surround it. Before releasing a piece, you pause to write a short letter that explains its meaning. A sentence as simple as, "This belonged to your father, here is what it meant to him and to me," can turn grief into guidance, ensuring your voice lives on long after the object changes hands. This ritual works because it bridges two powerful needs, the desire to declutter and the desire to be remembered. Objects alone can be misunderstood or forgotten, but when paired with words, they carry clarity. A ring becomes not just jewelry, but a symbol of endurance through hard times. A cookbook becomes not just recipes, but a record of the meals that kept a family together. Even a simple pocket knife can be transformed into a lesson about resourcefulness and resilience when explained through your own handwritten voice. Eudora discovered the power of this practice when she decided to part with Samuel's old compass. Rather than placing it in a drawer or donating it, she wrote a note to her grandson, "Your grandfather carried this on every hiking trip we took. He used it to remind us that no matter how lost we felt, there was always a way forward. May it guide you through your own journeys." The compass, paired with the letter, became more than an object. It became a legacy of hope and direction. You can place these letters directly with the items you're releasing, or you can collect them in a memory journal, creating a written archive of your life's treasures and the meaning they carried. Over time, this journal becomes an heirloom in its own right, a map of stories and wisdom that guides your loved ones long after objects have been passed along. The legacy letter ritual shows us that decluttering isn't about silence, it's about speaking. It's about making sure your story doesn't fade with the things you leave behind, but instead continues as a steady voice in the lives of those who follow. If you were to write a legacy letter today, which item would you choose, and what message would you want to leave with it? When the last ritual was done, Eudora finally allowed herself to sit in her living room, a space that once felt crowded by the weight of memory. The room was quieter now. The shelves were lighter, but not empty. Each object that remained seemed to glow with intention, carefully chosen, deeply honored. A single quilt folded over the arm of her chair. A framed letter on the wall, carrying Samuel's words. A teapot on the shelf that now poured stories as much as it poured tea. Nothing was there by accident. Each piece had been transformed into a living reminder of love. For Eudora, this was the moment of realization. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "I didn't lose him. I carried him forward." That sentence marked the turning point between grief and gratitude. What was once painful clutter had become curated memory, not overwhelming her but surrounding her with warmth. The room was no longer a storage space, it was a sanctuary. And this is where the heart of sentimental decluttering lies. It isn't about stripping your home bare or erasing the presence of those you love. It's about shifting from cluttered pain to curated gratitude, creating a home where every object has a story worth telling. For seniors especially, this approach replaces guilt and sorrow with dignity and comfort. You don't have to choose between memory and space, you can have both if you allow meaning to guide your choices. If you look around your own home, What could change if only the objects with deep meaning remained? How much lighter would your heart feel if your rooms reflected not just the past you've lived, but the love you're still carrying forward? Your clutter is not clutter, it's love in disguise. And love, when honored, never leaves. Tap hype now, because stories like yours deserve to rise, not disappear under piles of things. Every hype lifts this message higher, so other seniors can find comfort, too. And while you're here, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because this community grows stronger when we honor these stories together.